Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we want to have a look at weak forms. What are weak forms? Now, weak forms can be defined as words that are unstressed when we speak naturally. This is a very simple definition. To be a little bit more specific, weak forms are really sounds in syllables that are unstressed. And we call this usually connected speech. Connected speech is when we speak naturally, at natural speed. Now, because these sounds in the syllables are unstressed, as a result, the vowel sound is reduced. And it is reduced to a short vowel sound, and very often it is reduced to a schwa sound. And remember, the schwa sound is simply a, and this is also a short vowel sound. Let's have a look at an example. Here is the word some. Now we can say this in isolation, or we could also stress it in a sentence, and it sounds like this. Some. It's the full form and the vowel sound is a. Some. However, usually this word is not stressed and it occurs in its weak form with the schwa. A. Some. So if it's stressed, some, and if it is unstressed, the weak form is some. The difference here might not be as big. You'll see some other examples where the difference is very obvious. And to think about full form compared to weak forms, when I was preparing this video, I thought, how could I explain this to my students? Now, you could think about the full form as a photograph of you where you look very pretty, you've taken great care to look nice, you put good lighting up, and the weak form is just a photo in real life. This is what you usually look like. And here is an example of myself. The full form, a nice video, good makeup, a nice t-shirt, nice lighting. This is the word in isolation. This is you on your best day. But the weak form is the reality. This is what you usually look like when you don't take great care. And this is both me, but I look different, okay? And this is the same with full and weak forms. It is the same word, but the full form is the stressed version, and sometimes we can be stressed because we take care and we put on makeup and we do our hair. But when you're relaxed and the weak form is in a normal sentence, this is what it looks like or sounds like. I hope this analogy helps you a little bit to remember the difference between full and weak forms. Now, why do we have weak forms? Now, weak forms occur in English because content words are stressed. And content words are words that carry information. And they are important. We need to know the information, so we stress those words. And those words are usually nouns, verbs, adjectives, also negative auxiliaries, and also a range of other words. On the other hand, we have grammatical words, and they are usually not stressed in English. Grammatical words are articles, prepositions, linking words, positive auxiliaries, and many other words. And those help us to form sentences that are grammatically correct, but they do not carry the most important information, and they are not stressed in English usually. Now, why does this happen? And this happens because English is classified as a stress-timed language. And that means that we stress content words, and from one stress to the next, we want to keep the same time. And now there might be quite a lot of grammatical words in between that we don't stress, but if we always want to keep the same time from one stress to the next, well, we have to hurry up and say those words a little bit quicker. There are some languages that are very different. They are syllable-timed. If you want to find out more about this topic, watch my video on syllable versus stress-timed languages. I go into a lot more detail there. But this is really why some words are unstressed and why they need to be said quicker and why we have weak forms in English. So really, for those words, we have two pronunciations, the full form and the weak form. And the weak form usually contains the schwa or another short vowel sound. So they have vowel reduction. Now, remember, it's really important to learn both of those because otherwise you won't be able to recognize weak forms in a sentence. And this is also why sometimes listening to someone speak in English can be quite challenging and difficult. Let's have a look at some common weak forms. Here is a very common word. It's the word are. And this is from the verb to be conjugated in the present simple. And it contains a long vowel sound, ah. You can either just say ah or are with a little r at the end. Now, usually this word, though, is not stressed in sentences, especially not if it acts as an auxiliary verb. And then it gets reduced to a. Just a very short schwa sound. And here we've got an example sentence. They are studying. Now, that wasn't very natural. I said each word individually. But when we say the sentence fast, they are studying, you can hear that the a is reduced to a. And this happens because in this sentence, the sentence is written in the present continuous and are acts as an auxiliary verb to help us form this tense. The main verb is studying, and that is stressed. But the positive auxiliary, no, it's not stressed, and it is reduced. It is a weak form here, and it's simply a short schwa sound. They are studying. They are studying. So hopefully you were able to hear it. It's an incredibly short sound. Let's have a look at another very common weak form. And this is for the verb do. The verb do on its own contains a long vowel sound, u. But usually, again, here, this vowel will be reduced to schwa in connected speech, because usually we do not stress do when it works as an auxiliary. Here we have an example sentence. I'm just going to say it out slowly, so if you read it out, what do you want to do? We have the verb do twice here. The first time I put in orange because here it really is an auxiliary verb. It helps us form a question. But the second do, right at the end of the sentence, is a full verb, and it is stressed. So although we have the verb twice, the pronunciation is different. The first one is unstressed, it's in its weak form, de. The second one is stressed, and it's its full form, do. And I'm going to say the sentence out naturally now, and hopefully you can hear it. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do? What do? It's an incredibly short little d sound, but the second one, what do you want to do, is stressed in its full form. And there's something else that's happening. It isn't to do with weak forms, but there's some linking happening. So really, when we say, what do you want to do fast? Because what ends in a t sound and do starts with a d and we say it fast, listen what happens. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? The d really changes into a ch and the last t from what disappears. So instead of saying what do you want, it becomes what you want, what you want. Listen to the whole sentence. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And this is what it usually sounds. So this is linking. It's another aspect of connected speech, but it occurs here, so I thought we'll quickly talk about it. Let's have a look at another common weak form with the word to, an incredibly common word in English. So to on its own in the full form contains a long u sound, but again in its weak form it will be reduced to t and it contains a schwa. Have a look at the example sentence. It's the same as before. What you want to do, it's not to do, it's to do, to do. So here we have a weak form of the word to, and it contains just a very short schwa. Now let's have a look at another common weak form, and this is with the word your, a possessive adjective. So on its own, or when you stress it, it sounds like this, your, and it contains a long vowel sound, all. However, when we speak naturally and the word is not stressed, it is reduced to y, y. And again, it contains a schwa sound. You can see the schwa sound, it's popping up everywhere. Now, and if you've watched my individual video on the schwa, I told you that apparently 30% that comes out of our mouth is simply a schwa. And it doesn't surprise me because it really is everywhere when we speak. So let's have a look at this example sentence. Here we have, is this your bag? But of course, if we say it naturally, it sounds like this. Is this your bag? Your bag, your bag. Is this your bag? So we don't say, is this your bag? Unless you really want to stress the word here because you want to say, is this your bag, not his. But usually we don't stress the word and it's simply your bag. Is this your bag? Incredibly short. Let's have a look at another common weak form, and that is with the verb have. Now remember, this verb can act as an auxiliary or main verb. If it's an auxiliary and it's affirmative, it usually gets reduced and occurs in a weak form because we don't stress it. So on its own, in its full form, it sounds like this. Have, with an eh sound, have. However, usually unstressed, the weak form is simply have, have. Or even shorter, of, of. Here we drop the h sound. Have a look at this sentence here. I have two sisters, but naturally I have two sisters. I have two sisters. Often we also contract it, and then it simply sounds like this. I've. Now, it can even be reduced to simply a v sound. I've two sisters. I've two sisters. So it's a really, really short version from its original full form. From have, we simply went down to the. And the vowel that you hear first, I've, is from the pronoun I, so don't get confused here. Another common form is for the pronoun we. The pronoun we contains a long E sound, and long E sounds are usually not reduced to a schwa, but simply to a short I. We. So we, its full form, and we, weak form when it's unstressed. Like in the sentence here, I think we should start. We should start. I think we should start. So I don't say I think we should start because I would stress it and that would almost change the meaning here. I think we should start, not they should start. But that's not what I want to say usually. It's just a normal sentence here. I think we should start. And so we is reduced to we. So remember, when you have grammatical words containing a long E sound in their full form, the reduced weak form does not usually contain a schwa, it contains a short E. Now here is a summary of the words that we looked at. So you see the word written down on the left, and then in the middle you have the full form transcript. So we had are, do, to, your, have, we, and some. But then on the very right hand side you have the weak form. And now if you compare the transcript of the full to the weak form, you will see that the full form contains a lot of long vowel sounds. We have a, u, o, i. And the weak forms, none of them contain a full long vowel sound. Most of them in fact contain the schwa, a. And then I told you, for example, we contained a long E, and that is reduced to a short E. And that is a little bit of an exception, but what they all have in common, the weak forms, is that they contain short vowel sounds because they're quicker to say. Now here are some other words that are very, very often unstressed and therefore occur in their weak forms. For example, been, will, would, were, has, he, her, and, for, from, of, then, has, our. Now all of those have something in common because while they help us to form grammatically correct sentences, they do not contain the most important information. And so that is why they're not stressed in English and why they often said very fast and they occur in their weak form. Now it's time to test yourself to see how much you have understood about weak forms. Can you recognize the weak forms in this sentence? Listen carefully. We have lived here for years. We have lived here for years. Some words are louder because they're stressed and they're clearer and easier to hear, and the others are all reduced. Let's have a look. Lived here and years, those words are stressed, so they will occur in the full form. Those are content words. The other words are not stressed and occur in their weak form. We have is likely to be contracted to we've, and for is likely to be reduced to simply for. And I'll say the sentence again. We've lived here for years. Let's have a look at one more sentence. Can you recognize the weak forms? I picked them up at the school. I picked them up at the school. The words that are stressed are picked up and school. Those carry content and information. The rest is likely to be reduced and will occur in its weak form. I will simply be a. I picked them up. Them will be reduced and contains a schwa. At and the as well, they will be reduced and they will contain schwas. Listen again. I picked them up at the school. At the school. I picked them up at the school. There's also linking occurring here. Pick them, the t in picked is lost, this is elision, and it joins with them. Pick them, pick them. At and the, again here's elision, and we join them together, so the final t in at is dropped and it becomes at the. I picked them up at the school.